Right, let me give you the solution for this exercise. So in here, I've said Boolean exists email, student repository, select exists email, and then pass the email. And you saw this method under the description of the exercise. And then if exists email, we throw a new bad request exception, and then we pass the message. Otherwise, we just save the student. Then we have delete student. So here we are saying if the student repository exists by ID, so if doesn't exist, right? So if the student with an ID doesn't exist, then basically we throw a student not found exception. And this could actually be a not found exception, but it doesn't really matter, right? Because we only have one single model. But if you want to reuse, for example, you just rename this. So Shift F6 to not found exception, right? But let's just keep it student not found exception for now. Then if it does exist, we can delete the student. Now inside of the exception package here, we have the bad request. And this is so that we don't throw a 500 to the client. And you'll see this in a second. And also, student not found exception, it's a not found. So this will give the client a 404 instead of 500. So this is pretty much for the backend. And actually I forgot. So in here, student repository. So right here, you saw that we have this method right here. So select case when count 0, and basically JPQL doesn't have an exists SQL equivalent. So that's why I have this select case where I count S greater than 0, then true, else false, and then I end from and then student, where the email is whatever we pass. Then moving on to the front end in here. So if I open up, let's start with student drawer. So in here, it's very simple what I've done. So what I've done was I just copied the exact same error that we had for, so in here, app.js, and remember inside of fetch all students, I've just copied the exact same thing. So this is the exact same thing, right? There is nothing different there. And if you want, you can even refactor this so you can reuse it all over the place. But for now, I've just copied and pasted. So if I go back here, so you can see this is the exact same thing. And one thing to note is I've changed the notification to have a placement. So here I said bottom left. If I open up the notification class or file in here, you can see that I pass the placement, and if it's not present, I just say top right. So this was the default. And then I've changed all of these methods, so set notification, error, to also pass down the placement. And for the delete, so here, delete, if I scroll up, the delete is the exact same thing as well. So I've just copied the error, and there you go. So obviously you can find the exact changes that I have committed, so you can see exactly what I've done. So here, let me just restart the backend. So if I go back in here, let's actually test this. So let's add a new student. Here, I'm going to basically, let's just close that and then grab this email. So carlos@gmail.com, add new student. This will be Carlos. And then the email will be carlos@gmail.com. We know it's taken. Mail, submit, and have a look. So the placement for this notification has changed now, and you can see the status code is a 400. So status code 400 bad request. And this is why, so in here, the bad request exception. So this is why I have annotated with @response status and then bad request. So this is what the client receives. Because otherwise, if we just throw an illegal state exception, the status code will be 500. And 500 is internal server error, which is not the case. So if I go back and here, let's just close this. And to test that the delete does work as well is as follows. So if I open up IntelliJ, and here what we're going to do is open up the app.js, and then inside of the remove student, for now let's just pass, for example, a high number, so a number that does not exist, right? So delete student, don't use this one that comes from the parameter. So if I save this and then go back, and in here if I delete and then say yes, you can see that there was an issue, student ID does not exist, and then the status code is 404, not found. So there you have it. So this is how you should be handling client and server errors. You can find the exact commit for my solution under the description of this video so that you follow step by step. This is all for now. Catch me on the next one.